All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. Time to dive deeper into the lost wisdom of the pharaohs, Wednesday wisdom, and the Corpus Hermeticum. Continue our series, reading and diving into the divine Pymander. Original manuscript, Hermes Trismegistus, 3rd century A.D. Corpus Hermeticum is one of the primary works within the Hermetic tradition. This Renaissance-era craft is nonetheless based upon philosophic materials from far older times, namely the 3rd or 4th century AD, from which the primordial material came. Credited to Hermes Trismegistus, the divine Pymander, sometimes called or spelled Pomander, which is the section we are diving into today. Earlier in this series, we did the introduction to the Corpus Hermeticum and Hermes Trismegistus, his first book. And then last week, we did the beginning of the Pomander and went off on the elements and talking about that, as well as referencing another book over here. And so I thought today, instead of getting sidetracked like we do all the time, we will just dedicate this to the second book here in the Corpus Hermeticum titled Pomander, and I'll try to stay on track without rambling as much as I normally do, ladies and gentlemen. So, with that being said, thank you for being here. Hope you got yourself a beverage and you're comfy, and I hope it's a wonderful day wherever you are. And we are doing this reading for purposes of teaching and commentary and expanding the mind so we can increase our awareness and understanding of ourselves and the nature of reality, so that hopefully through that we can increase the quality of our experience and of our lives, and hopefully also the lives of those around us, because as we learned yesterday, that we have an impact even when we don't think that we do. And so I'll leave it at that without rambling on that like I normally would. So the Corpus Hermeticum, Pomander. It begins. My thoughts being once seriously busied about the things that are, and my understanding lifted up, all my bodily senses being exceedingly held back, as it is with them that are very tired, by reason either of fullness or meat or of exhaustion, I thought I saw one of exceeding great stature, of an infinite greatness, call me by my name, and say to me, what do you wish to see and hear? Or what would you understand, to learn and know? Then said I, who are you? I am, he said, Pomander, the mind of the great Lord, the most mighty and absolute emperor. I know what you wish, and I am always present with you. And so it seems to be a dialogue back and forth between Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus, and what I'm getting as this Pomander is later described as the mind of God. And so with that in mind, I'll continue. Once again, trying to stay on track and not ramble and go on tangents like I normally do. So we could dedicate this for somebody who's searching for just the reading itself. Continuing now with number 3. Then I said, I would learn the things that are, and understand the nature of them, and know God. How? Said he. I answered that I would gladly hear. Then said he, have me again in thy mind, and whatever so you wish to learn, I will teach you. When he had these things, he was changed in his idea or form. And straightway in the twinkling of an eye, all things were opened unto me, and I saw an infinite sight. All things were becoming light, both sweet and exceeding pleasant. And I was wonderfully delighted in seeing it. But after a little while, there was a darkness made in part, coming down obliquely, fearful and hideous, which seemed to me to be changed into a certain moist nature, unspeakably troubled, which yielded a smoke as from fire. and from which proceeded a voice unutterable and very mournful, but inarticulate, inasmuch as it seemed to have come from the light. And so this is where last time we went off on describing these connections to possibly the creation of the elements. Continuing now, number 6. Then from that light, a certain holy word joined itself unto nature, and then came the pure and unmixed fire from the moist nature upwards on high. It was exceeding light and sharp and dynamic as well. And the air, which was also light, followed the spirit and mourned up to fire, and so as much that it seemed to hang and depend on it. Now remember, air being the intermediary element between the others. Number 7 now. And the earth and the water stayed by themselves, so mingled together, that the earth could not be seen for the water, but they were moved because of the spiritual word that was carried upon them. Then said Poimander to me, do you understand this vision and what it means? I shall know, said I. Then said he, I am that light, the mind, thy God, who am before that moist nature that appeared out of darkness. And that bright and shining word from the mind is the Son of God. How is it? How is that? I asked. Thus, he replied, understand it. That which you sees and hears, that which in you sees and hears, the word of the Lord and the mind of the Father, God. And don't take these, terms, Lord and Father and God. When you relate this to Christian terms, it can sometimes be taken the wrong way. Remember, this is coming from a time before then. And so the implications made by terms such as Lord and Father and God are different than our common understanding. But if you're here watching this video, then you already probably know that anyways. So thank you for joining me. Let us continue. The word of the Lord and the mind, the Father, God, differ not from the other, and the union of these is life. I said, I thank thee. He said, but first conceive well in the light in your mind and know it. When he had said thus, for a long time we looked steadfastly upon the other, insomuch that I trembled at his idea or form. But when he nodded to me, I beheld in my mind the light that is innumerable, and the truly indefinite ornament or world, and that the fire is comprehended or contained in, or by great moist power and constrained to keep its place and form. Now, this is very deep. This is very deep, and there's a lot that could be taken out of all of this. And so, like I said, I'm trying to avoid rambling like I usually do, because my mind is telling me, wait a minute, wow, this could mean that, and that could mean this, and this is why this is important for us to continue to do what Thoth, or Hermes Trismegistus, reminded us, and I will remind us every time as we talk about the Hermetics, to continue to do when it comes to this type of spiritual philosophy that has had a profound impact throughout the ages. In the first lines of the prophecies of Hermes in the Hermetica, pure philosophy is a spiritual striving through, and most importantly to me, constant contemplation to attain true knowledge of, as he describes it in the Corpus Hermeticum, of the things that are. And so, constant contemplation. And so if this is meaning something for you, and there's so much packed into these words that you can get a lot of different things. So hopefully that is what is happening for you. Number 12 in Poimander from the Corpus Hermeticum. These things I understood, seeing the word, or Poimander, and when I was mightily amazed, he said again unto me, have you seen in your mind that archetypal form, which was before the intermediate, indeterminate, and infinite beginning? Did you see that archetypal form, which was before the indeterminate and infinite beginning? Thus Poimander said to me, but how? I said, or form what substance? From what substance are the elements of nature made? He said, of the will and counsel of God, which, taking the word and beholding the beautiful world, imitated it, and so made this world by the principles and vital seeds or soul-like productions of itself. Very fascinating, describing creation there. 13, for the mind being God, male and female, life and light, brought forth by his word another mind or workman, which being God of the fire and the spirit, fashioned and formed 7 other governors, which in their circles contained the tangible world, whose government or disposition is called fate or destiny. This, I wonder, if this is referring to astrology and astrotheology. Number 14, the 7 governors possibly being planetary bodies in the physical realm, and then mirrored as different archetypal gods that influence us in different ways here in the physical realm. Just a thought. Number 14, it straightway came forth or exalted itself from the downward elements of God, the word of God, into the clean and pure workmanship of nature, and was united to the workman mind, for it was consubstantial. And so the downward born elements of nature were left without reason, that they might be the only matter. The only matter. Interesting. 15, but the workman mind, together with the word, containing the circles, spinning them about. So these circles possibly, I'm thinking, being the planetary bodies or circles of influence from the spiritual realm to the physical realm. And I'll continue here. But the workman mind, together with the word, containing the circles and spinning them about, turned round as a wheel, the celestial clock, so to speak. His own workmanship, and suffered them to be turned from an indefinite beginning to an indeterminable end. For they always begin where they end. So I'm thinking this, talking about the constellations and the movements in the heavens. 16, and the circulation or running round of these, as the mind wills, out of the lower or downward born elements, brought forth unreasonable or brutish creatures, for they had no reason, the air flying things, and the water such as swim. Weirdly worded there. But remember, this is translated from a long time ago, ladies and gentlemen. So, 17, and the earth and the water were separated, one from the other, as the mind willed. And the earth brought forth from herself such living creatures as she had, 4-footed and creeping beasts, wild and tame. But the Father of all things, the mind being life and light, brought forth man like unto himself, whom he loved as his proper birth, for he was all beauteous, having the image of his Father. 19. For indeed God was exceedingly enamored of his own form or shape, and delivered unto it all his own creations, by he seeing and understanding the creation of the workman in the whole. Metaphor there, hopefully you're picking up what's being put down here, would need as well also himself to fall to work, and so was separated from the Father, being in the sphere of generation or operation. That was deep. So describing maybe our descent from a spiritual nature into this dual nature, as is described in the first part of this, as well in the Hermetica, and separating there, it said, falling to work, because we have this ability, our dual nature, to connect with the mind of God and see creation as, like it described there, seeing and understanding the creation of the workman, or God, in the whole, in the oneness of reality. But then at the same time, we would need as well also ourselves to fall to work, because we are here in the mortal realm, and so was separated from the Father, or divinity, or our fully spiritual existence. And there's also in Genesis, in the beginning of the Bible, there's two creations, and it's almost like one, we were just spiritual beings, and then the next time we were actually made physical from the dust of the earth. And if you look carefully there, you can find that distinction. However, let us continue. Having all power, number 20, he considered the operations or workmanship of the seven, but they loved him, and everyone made him partaker of his own order. So we're getting traits and characteristics from the seven planetary bodies, the seven gods, whatever these seven are. And so 21, and we learned diligently, understanding their essence and partaking their nature, resolved to pierce and break through the circumference of the circles, and to understand the power of him that sits upon the fire. It's very vague and mystical and could mean many things. I'm very interested what this means to you, and be sure to leave that in the chat room below. And I thank you to all of those of you who join me here in the premieres in the live chat. It's so fun to go back and forth with you. And so, number 22. And having already all the power of mortal things, of the living and the unreasonable creatures of the world, stooped down and peeped through the harmony, and breaking through the strength of the circles, so showed and made manifest the downward born nature, the fair and beautiful shape or form of God. 23. Which when he saw, having it in himself the insatiable beauty, and all the operations of the seven governors, and the form or shape of God, he smiled for love, as if he had seen the shape or likeness in the water, or the shadow upon the earth, of the fairest human form. 24. And seeing in the water a shape like unto himself, in himself he loved it, and would cohabit with it, and immediately upon the resolution ensued the operation, and brought forth the unreasonable image or shape. So is this the creation of female in the mortal realm? Possibly. Nature presently laying hold of what it so much loved, did wholly wrap herself about it, and they were mingled, for they loved one another. And from this cause man above all things that lived upon earth is double. This is where we get to the dual nature that I was getting at. Mortal because of his body, and immortal because of the substantial. It says man, but I would say the mind, connected to the mind of God. But I'll go with what the book says. Quote, all, and from this cause, man above all things that live upon earth is double, mortal because of his body, and immortal because of the substantial man. For being immortal and having power of all things, yet he suffers mortal things, and such as are also subject to fate or destiny. 27, and therefore being above all harmony, we are made, or it says he is made, and become a servant to harmony. It says he is hermaphrodite, or male and female, and watchful. He is governed by and subjected to a father that is both male and female and watchful. 28, after these things I said, you are my mind, and I am in love with reason. Then, said Poimander, this is the mystery that to this day is hidden and kept secret. For nature being mingled with man brought forth a wonder most great, for he having the nature of the harmony of the seven. For him who I told you, the fire and the spirit, nature continued not, but forthwith brought forth 7 men, and sublime on high according to the natures of the 7 governors. After these things, O Pomander, I said, I am now come into great desire and longing to hear. Do not digress or leave. That's funny. Number 31, but he said, it's the reason I laugh and say that's funny is because this is so deep and you have to lighten it up with some, you have to lighten your mind and release the weight of the intense, profound amount of mystical information being put down here. But it's also funny because every time Hermes responds to Poimander, he says something. He's like, I've come in great desire to hear more. Earlier on, he's like, wow, what of this? And he just has funny comments when talking to the mind of God here. But he said, keep silence, for I have not yet finished the first speech. And so that's why I'm trying not to ramble and cut in all of this, because I would not have even made it this far. And Poimander has not even yet finished the first speech. So let us continue. Hopefully you're getting value, those of you that are here for the reading of this. Number 32, I said, behold, once again, a funny comment. Behold, I am silent. 33, the generation, therefore, of these 7. So learning about these 7 is very interesting. The 7 circles, the 7 governors, these 7 men that were now created, which it weirdly said were all hermaphrodites, but we'll slightly skip over that point. The generation, therefore, of these 7 was after this manner. The air, being feminine, and the water desirous of copulation, took form, the fire, its ripeness, and the form of the ethereal spirit, deep. And so nature produces bodies after the species and shape of men. 34, and man was made of life and light, into soul and mind, and life of life, the soul, of light, the mind. So life is connected to the soul, light connected to the mind. 35, and so all the members of the sensible world continued unto the period of the end, bearing rule and generating. 36, Hear now the rest of that speech you so much desire to hear. When that period was fulfilled, the bond of all things was loosened and untied by the will of God. For all living creatures, being both male and female, or male and female twain, were loosed and united together with man, and so the males were apart by themselves, and the females likewise. See, this is a weird part of creation that the Bible definitely skips over. But we can imagine they skipped over and cut out a lot, ladies and gentlemen. And so that's why we're here, seeking into more mystical discoveries about not only the nature of reality, but in this episode, the creation of man and the universe. Anyways, once again, I almost started rambling again. This is fascinating, though, and very powerful. So there was the separation then. Were loosed apart and untied together. So the males were apart by themselves and the females likewise. And straightway God said to the Holy Word, increase in increasing and multiply in multitude all you, my creatures and creations. And let him that is imbued with a mind know himself to be immortal, and that the cause of death is the love of the body. And let him learn all things that are. Now remember, we're going to jump back real quick to the first book, Hermes Trismegistus, his first book. And it says, the first two lines, O my son, write this first book for humanity's sake and for piety towards God, reverence, remember. Number two, for there can be no religion more true or just than to know the things that are, than to simply know and understand the nature of reality and know the things that are. And to acknowledge thanks for all things, and to that which made them, which thing we shall not cease continually to do. So that brings us back to where we are in Poimander now, in number 39. No, 38. This is, I think, one of the most important yet so far. Well, that's hard to say. This is all extremely important. But, and straightway God said to the Holy Word, increase and increasing supply, multiply all you may, and let him, now this is a lesson for us living in life from Thoth, Hermes, or God, and let him that is imbued with a mind, so that's us, know himself to be immortal. And that is deep and philosophical. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I'm having a funny time here. I'll say it again. Let him that is imbued with a mind know himself to be immortal, and that the cause of death is the love of the body, or the physical realm, maybe. And let us learn all things that are. 39. When he had said thus, Providence, by fate of harmony, made the mixtures and established the generations and all things that were multiplied according to their kind, and he that knew himself came at length to the possessed of every substantial good. So he that knows himself, he or she, know thyself, the ultimate quote, is coming here to us from Pomander in the Corpus Hermeticum, number 40. But he that through error of vanity loved the body continues wandering in darkness, sensible, suffering the things of death. 41, I said, but why do they that are ignorant sin so much that they should therefore be deprived of immortality? He replied, "You seem not to have understood what you have heard." 43. I said, "I seem so to you, but I both understand and remember them." He said, "I am glad for your sake if thou understood them." I replied, they tell me why are they worthy of death, that are in death?" He replied, "Because there goes a sad and dismal darkness, darkness before its body, of which darkness is the moist nature." Wow, that was mentioned way back in the beginning. Of which moist nature the body consists in the sensible world, from where death is derived. Do you understand? Wow, this is relating back to the first book that was talking about the sensible being the physical world and the reasonable, I think it was, being the spiritual. Trying to find that. That which abides is always unchangeable. That which is unchangeable is eternal. Every essence is immortal. Every essence is unchangeable. Paired. Reason. The mind is in God. Reasoning in man. Reason is in the mind. It's somewhere in here. Very dense. We'll continue before we finish up here. We'll get to about number 50, and then we'll leave it off to do the second half next week, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing. Tell me why, he replied, because there goes a sad and dismal darkness before the body, which darkness is the moist nature, of which nature the body consists in the sensible world, from where death is derived. Do you understand? I replied, but why, or how does he that understands himself go or pass into good? So he's trying to discover the difference of those of us that come to know ourselves, or those of us that become trapped through the error of vanity and our, desire for the material realm or the things of the physical world rather than being of the mind and of the light. And, so he's asking, how do these go into good, those that know themselves, quote unquote? He replied, that which the word of God said, say I, because the Father of all things consists of light and of life, whereof man is made. I replied, you reply very well. Hermes always says something funny. And to me, that was a difficult reply to understand. 50, he said, God and the Father is light and life, of which man is made. If therefore you learn and believe yourself to be the life and the light, you will again pass into life. 51, I replied, but yet tell me more. O my mind, how I shall go into life. He replied, God says, let man be imbued with a mind, take heed, consider, and know himself well. Know his or herself well. And there, ladies and gentlemen, we will leave it off, and we will continue finishing the second half of the second book in the Corpus Hermeticum, entitled Poimander, and discovering the esoteric occult mysteries of the origins of creation in this chapter and the creation of man. Very fascinating. And that is a boom to knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, and a boom to wisdom. Very deep. And I was trying to keep it more concise this time, so we're not just rambling. And I think some people might actually come for the book itself and maybe not all my ramblings. But either way, I like to have fun, ladies and gentlemen. And like I always say, I'd be doing this by myself anyways, and why not share it here with you? And I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy seeing all of you in the chats and the comments. And it's just a lot of fun on this journey of trying to discover the nature of reality. And as Thoth, or Hermes, or Pymander, the mind of God, puts it, to know the things that are And so remember, ladies and gentlemen, to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, and seek to discover the wisdom of the ages, and also look into the mysteries of our history. It came out funny this time. Remember also, most importantly, that there is no way to happiness or enlightenment. Happiness is the way. It is what we must bring to life. And then all the things we've been telling ourselves, oh, I'll be happy when I get there, or become this kind of person, that becomes irrelevant, because then we are there. And hopefully the journey is wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. Love and appreciate each and every one of you. Be sure to expand the description below to get the book for yourself, to put it on your shelf so that you can follow along and continuing in this journey, in this series that we'll be going through all of it. And it should be fantastic, ladies and gentlemen, as well as a link to my Etsy shop and landscape paintings, as well as C60, Purple Power, the most powerful antioxidant known to man. And finally, remember to be the change that you want to see. Be the example you want to set. Until next Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen.